All good.
Hello, welcome to our episode of Alumni Series. I'm here with Stephanie from Alberta.
Hi, very happy to be here.
Nice. Okay, so we can get started with the questions. So where did you go to university and what did you study?
So I started my undergrad in Edmonton at MacEwan University, and I studied political science and economics. And after that, I went to the University of Ottawa, where I studied law, just the English common law program. And they were both really great.
Awesome. I'd love to go to law school. That'd be really fun.
It
Um,
can be fun.
what was your involvement in the Ukrainian community during your post-secondary education?
So when I started my undergrad, typically most people in Edmonton, you normally go to the University of Alberta, but I chose to go to MacEwan University. It's a smaller undergraduate only institution. And so when I was there at that point, there really wasn't much of a Ukrainian community. So I kind of sought out other people to create our own club or in students club. And so that's kind of really where my involvement started in undergrad. So that was my first year, and we really were starting from a grassroots standpoint. So it was hard because we really had to put ourselves out there and really start networking and finding other people and getting professors involved. And so it was a really fun experience because you really got to do things from the ground up, but it was also really hard. We did get a lot of assistance from the Students Club at the University of Alberta. So they call themselves USS. And at the time, Kasian Soltakevich was president. And really, it was after talking to Kasian that I really wanted to get involved in SUSK and kind of see what it had to offer. And so it was really, I think it was around second year or third year undergrad. I can't remember that I went to my first SUSK Congress representing MacEwan. And I maybe it sounds cliche, but it was perhaps a life-changing moment for us that got to attend. We just didn't realize how big the Ukrainian student community was in Canada, and so really that's where my involvement started. And then as I progressed into law school and a bit before that, I started to get involved in the SUSK executive. So first I started as the external relations director. And then after that, I was president for 2 years and then stuck around as past presidents do because we can't let go of anything. Um, and yeah, so it was really, really great experience.
That's awesome. Okay. What is your current occupation, and can you tell me a little bit more about your career path that led you to this occupation?
So I am working as a lawyer right now. So I was called to the bar in July 2022. So I've only been a lawyer for a real lawyer, as we like to say, for I don't know, like 15 months or so, maybe a little more than that. But I suppose what led me to this career, I think that I really enjoyed when I went into political science, I really enjoyed the interplay of politics and how that affects our society and what are the factors that really propel us to make changes. And for me, I felt that law was a really good fit because at the end of the day, really what is going to change laws in Canada? And a lot of the time that ends up being legislation and who can understand that legislation. And a lot of the time it's lawyers. And actually, I think most people can actually understand it. So I really don't want to oversell what lawyers can do because I think there are a lot of pathways to get involved in that. But that's kind of the one that I chose. It felt like the most direct path to a career that I would be interested in. And so it kind of just worked itself out. You go to law school, you find a summer job, and sometimes that's just where you end up. And so right now I work at the Department of Justice Canada for the federal government. And so it's been a really, really interesting experience.
Very cool. Very cool. Very nice. Quite inspirational, I must say.
I'm glad to hear that.
Mhm. Um, how do you think your involvement in, you said it was McEwen, Ukrainian Students Club, and the broader Ukrainian community helped you advance your career and or personal development?
It's a great question. I think that as I was growing up, I was always involved in the Ukrainian community tangentially. Like we all go to, Rina Shkola on Saturday morning and you hate it, but at the end of the day, you realize how valuable that really is. And you can learn about like literatura, your language is getting so much better. And it's really keeping you involved and connected to those ethnic roots. And so I think that I really wanted to ensure that I kept those things as I moved into young adulthood. I think that, you quit Ukrainian dancing because you don't have time for it anymore. And, you're not going to kurse or Zhina Shkola because you've aged out. And I mean, unless you're like super involved at your church, which is fine, you're really not getting the same thing. And I never did Plast or Zoom, just like the plate where I was located in Edmonton was very far from these things. And so my parents didn't end up putting me into any of those programs. So I kind of felt disconnected. And so when I started my undergrad, I just really wanted there to be a place for us to build that community. And so I think that that really gave me a lot of skills. I think it's tough when you don't have an established institution to start from, that you really have to be creative about how you build things. And so I really put myself out there. Oftentimes it'd be like just me at club days with no one else, and like that can be kind of scary as like you're 18 years old and you're like, I don't know anything, I don't know anyone here. So that was tough, but I really did find some great people. And one of the individuals, her name is Kim Gargis. She was not involved in the Ukrainian community at all before because she came from a small town in Alberta. And even though they were really involved in their own Ukrainian community, it was so different from what urban Edmonton Ukrainian community was. But we really formed this friendship where we wanted to say like, hey, we built this community for everyone, from whether you're a fourth or fifth generation Ukrainian to Novi Pribuli. And so that, I think, really helped me expand how I connect with people, learning how to build an organization and your like own bylaws and what are you going to do if XYZ happens. I think that really helped me think on my feet, think creatively, um, think empathetically as well, try and see things from different perspectives, because as you grow through these institutions, you often come across interpersonal conflicts, and that always happens. It happens in SUSK, it happens in students clubs, it happens beyond any of these organizations, and it's really a skill to manage that. And so I really do think that those experiences helped me in my career. I think as a lawyer, I do come across a lot of adversarial situations. I mean, that's the point of lawyering. You are against someone all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because you realize that when you're in court, like you are supposed to butt heads the whole time, but what happens outside of court? And a lot of the time it's very collegial. Like you are talking to these people because they are your colleagues within whatever the justice system is. And so you kind of have to realize, how am I going to separate this from who I am in the court and who I am outside of here? And so I think those skills did assist me as well. And in terms of SUSK, we went through a huge incorporation overhaul when I started as president. And we kind of realized that we had been operating as an unincorporated organization for quite a while, which is kind of a scary thing when you realize how many things SUSK was doing. And, we were building this endowment and we were collecting funds. And then, you realize that you don't have those corporate protections operating as an organization. And I think that when you're a young student, you don't realize how important those things are. And so we kind of went through a learning process there. And I don't practice corporate law, but that gave me a very good dipping my toes into, what kind of career that might be if I went that way. But it was all a really good experience. And I don't think I would have gotten any of those things if I didn't do SUSK or student club. I think that gave me a lot of unique skills. And I do really miss it. It's kind of, it's kind of like sad not to be a student anymore and just be able to learn every single day about different things that you're not necessarily studying.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I feel it. I love this era.
It's a great era. So many good vibes. I'm there for it.
And to that, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? Do you have any current tips for any current students?
It's a good question. I think to my 20-year-old self, I would tell her that it's okay if things don't work out. I think that we get so emotionally invested into seeing all of these successes, and sometimes they don't work out. And you just have to understand, you have to accept that your big plan and dream for whichever organization it is, sometimes you have to take a step back and maybe scale it back a little bit or take a different direction. And I think that this comes from, I feel like a lot of A-type-ish people do tend to join SUSK or the direction of any kind of organization. And so you're always striving for this sense of like perfectionism. But I think what the most important part of building or maintaining an organization is really about community and building that space for others to feel included. And I think that that should be the priority for everyone. And I know a lot of students think like, oh, I should just join an organization because, this is going to be good for my resume and, this will be good for my future career. And like that, absolutely, that can be it, but that really shouldn't be your primary motivation. Your primary motivation should stem from, why am I doing this? And is it going to help me become a better person? Can I help others become better people? And, how do I build a really good supportive network? Because at the end of the day, like what SUSK does is, the classic line is you now have a couch to sleep on in every major Canadian city. And I think that that is incredible. And it's so true. Like you meet so many like-minded, excellent individuals. And sometimes you get lost in the whole like in the student club thing. Like you're always trying to be the best student club because at some of the SUS congresses, you're presenting, what did you do this year? And did you beat everyone else out on it? Did you build the best organization? But at the end of the day, it's just about connecting with others. And now you know people in Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary and Saskatoon and so many people in Toronto and a bunch of people in Montreal and pretty much no one in the Atlantic, but that's okay. We're gonna get there.
Yes.
So I really think that students should be focused on, stay on top of your studies and all of those things because that's important, but also build this network because not only is it good for you, but you're creating this space for others. And I think that's what the Ukrainian community should be. We should be there for each other. We should also be connected to our roots, but it's more than that as well.
Awesome. Lovely. I will take that advice too. Do you have any closing thoughts, anecdotes, things to
Yeah,
share?
in terms of closing, I think that every student should get involved in a student club. And if you don't have one, SUSK is a really good resource in terms of building a new organization. And I can say that from experience that SUSK was so supportive when I was trying to do what I did. And I had a lot of successes and failures, and other students will too. But it's important that you try things. And even if you're introverted, like I have those days where I'm like, I just don't want to see people. Um, just keep doing it because you're just going to become such a well-rounded person at the end of this. And the fact that you can, support Ukraine while also supporting others and building this great place for yourself, I think is a really invaluable experience. And I think you will meet people that will help you succeed in your career. It might not be like someone's gonna find you an entry level job, but at the end of the day, once you do get started in your career, you'll know so many people across the country. And if you do want to move to Vancouver or Montreal or Toronto or whatnot, and you already have this network connected there, I think it'll really help you in the future. And it's all about community. We can't survive without it.
Lovely. Thank you so much for joining. Or
Absolutely. Very happy to speak with you.
it's lovely talking with you too.